Hi everyone, it's Suey, and today I'm going to tell you about what I read in March and what I plan to read in April. So, let's get to it. March was not that great of a reading month. Again, this is the story of my life. I only read 3 books, and one of them doesn't even really count. That means I only really read 2 books, which is insane. But the first book I read was called The Silence of Bones, which is on my Kindle. Silence of Bones by June Her, which I read for book club. It's the story of a police officer girl slave. She's a slave, but she has to help the policemen in Joseon time period in Korea, which is like the 1800s in Korea, and there's a murder. And she gets very involved in solving the murder and does a better job of figuring it out than the actual police guys do. Which is interesting because, not to spoil it all, but the police guys are, kind of mixed up in the whole mystery themselves. So that's kind of why she does a pretty good job of figuring out herself. And I liked it okay. I was a little bit disappointed in it because it wasn't as grabbing to me as I was hoping. But like I said in my little short about it, or maybe I did say it, I don't remember what I said. That is probably because I'm not so much into mysteries. I'd much rather like a sweeping saga of the family life or something in that time period. And then I read this book called 8 by H.M. Castor, which was on my shelves. And I realized it was Henry VIII book, told from his point of view as a kid. Starts out when he's like 6 years old, but it does go through his whole death. I think I talked about this one a little bit in another video, but I really, really enjoyed this one. So it is the story of Henry VIII from his point of view, and speculates on what maybe caused him to kind of lose his mind there. That we all know, the crazy Henry VIII, what maybe caused him to be that way. And then I finally finished this lovely little tiny thing. 3 short stories by Leo Tolstoy. I struggled with the last one. The last one is the longest one, and it's called the Kreutzer Sonata, and it was terrible. It was stupid.
Terrible.
The most terriblest thing ever.
Sorry, I don't usually talk in this type of video.
Tori's behind the camera. She's reacting to my video, which is good because maybe you people inside the camera, maybe that's how you react. I don't know. There's 3 short stories. The first one is called How Much Land Does a Man Need? And it's a very teeny little story about a guy who, he starts out really, really poor, but then he gets a little bit of luck and he ends up with some land, and then he needs more land, and then he needs more land, and then he needs more land. And he gets rich, and he gets, like, he's well-to-do, but now he just thinks he needs more and more and more until he pretty much kills himself trying to get as much land as he can get. So then the moral of the story is, like, are you ever happy in your life when you get stuff? Basically, that's summing it up really simply. The middle one was called The Death of Ivan Ilyich, which is, it's told from his friend's point of view as he goes to his funeral, the funeral of Ivan Ilyich, and then we kind of flash back to his life and how he had a pretty great life, but then he gets sick, and then it festers and festers and festers, and he sort of obsesses over this sickness, and nobody can help him, and he just gets worse and worse and worse and worse until he dies. And at the end of as he's about ready to die, he sort of has this weird epiphany, this weird vision thing happen where he realizes something really profound.
Are you spoiling it?
No, yes. It doesn't really matter because it's not like a novel where you he dies. The Death of Ivan Ilyich.
Oh, okay.
Afterwards, I was like, I need to go look that up and see what that all meant. Like, of course, it's a symbolism of something. He's trying to say something, but I'm not exactly sure what. And I did look it up, and I still don't think I really got it. But at the end, when he has this little epiphany, he kind of has this big aha moment. It's like, kind of like you should live your life when you're in it and not worry about it when it's too late. You know what I mean? Kind of like that. And then we get to that stupid Kreutzer Sonata. Mozart wrote this. We should look it up. We should look it up and see what this song is like. But wrote the sonata, not the story, of course. But all it is this, they're on a train, and our narrator dude, he's like, I'm sitting around all these people, he says, and this couple starts a conversation about marriage or something, and they say some snarky stuff about it. And that sets the other guy off. And those two get up and leave. But now this other guy, he has lots to say about it. And so he just goes on this big, long spiel about marriage and how terrible it is. And then he ends up telling his whole marriage life story, and he's this disgusting, jerky dude. And our narrator just sits there and listens to it. And so then I had to forget that the guy was just talking to the narrator dude. And try to realize that even though it's written like a conversation, because he's going on and on and on all night long while they're on this train ride about his terrible story, then I just had to start thinking of him as the narrator and that he's telling his story. Otherwise, it was kind of making me crazy because I kept picturing him sitting there talking to this guy forever and ever and ever and ever. So anyway, he tells his story about how it's very, very misogynistic. I feel like it was very, very much that way. And I don't know if Leo Tolstoy was saying what he thought or if he was saying what made him mad. Does that make sense? And so having a character that was saying the things that made him mad. But I can't even talk about all the crap that this dude was spouting off. And in the end, spoiler, because nobody's going to read this. In the end, he's telling this whole story because he kills his wife. He kills his wife because he gets jealous of her because she has a relationship with the dude that they play this song together. She's on the piano and he's on the violin, or the other way around. He's on the piano, she's on the violin. And I don't think anything was going on, but he imagines that there is, so he kills his wife. So yeah, that was a great story. Lovely. And he hates his wife throughout the whole thing. But he gets jealous of her at the end. And he just says these really, really, really obnoxious things. Anyway, so I struggled. It took me the entire month to read just that last story. It starts in 64 and goes to 130. Do the math. 140. 64.
80 pages.
80 pages. Took me. So it was this much. And all that is a conversation on the train. The whole thing. Oh my gosh, that guy was the worst. So I struggled, but I finally made myself read it so that I could finish it by the end of the month and say I finished it. So those were my 3 books.
What star rating did you give the 3 books?
Oh, I gave the 8 one 4, and I gave Silence of Bones 3, and I gave this one 3 because I liked. How do you give when it's?
It was the average rating of the
Yes.
3 stories.
I guess. I mean, the first 2 were great. The that third one was terrible. Hopefully, Kihyun, what's his name?
Konghyun.
Konghyun. I went through all of them. Kihyun, Konghyun. Those are all 3 different guys, by the way. Hopefully he didn't like that one. Hopefully he only liked Ivan Ilyich. But yeah. Okay, so what I plan to read in, what month are we in? April. I'm halfway through a book called Fast, Feast, and Repeat about intermittent fasting, which I talked about in a previous video for my little forced phases. I'm not going to make it last for very long. It's going to be a short forced phase because I can't stand this subject myself. But, and along with that, I have intuitive eating that I hope to, I don't know if I'm going to read this whole thing, but I might read parts of it, which if I do that, how do you count that? I don't know. And then I started the Song of Achilles, which was actually one of the very first books I ever bought for my Kindle, probably 10 years ago, or even longer. When did I get a Kindle?
I don't know, but I realized that the book came out in 2011.
Well, that's probably when I got my Kindle and probably when I bought it, when everybody was first talking about it. But I guess this book is either still really popular or has made a comeback. I don't know. But it's like huge right now and tons of people have it on hold, right? Can you confirm?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Anyway, Tori's reading it for her book club, her other book club, so I decided I would read it at the same time so that we could discuss. And so I am about a fourth of the way through that one, and it is on my Kindle, as I said, one of the first books I ever bought for the Kindle. So I'm reading that one. And then look what I have in my possession here, speaking of books that are huge hold lines. My friend got this one came up on hold for her at the library, and so she got it for me because she's already read it and my hold hasn't come up yet. So this is needing to be read. I'm thinking that if I don't get it read before it's due, then mine will come up a bit eventually soon. And this one is for November book club, so now I'm kind of torn. Do I want to read it already? But I will start it at least. So then I have to read this book, which Tori took off the dust jacket, so you can't see, but it is called The Girls I've Been by Tess Sharp, and we are reading this one for book club this month. So I will be reading this one as soon as she gets done with it. And then I am continuing on with my Brandon Sanderson year-long read of Oathbringer. I'm currently on page 229. I am slowly going through that and trying to do a vlog as I go, which you will see later on when I finish the book. And I am enjoying it. I'm enjoying it just fine. But I can't concentrate on it because I have all these other things that I want to do. And I should also mention that I started a teeny tiny little YA book that was on my Kindle that's literally maybe 120 pages long is all. At the beginning it says this is for mature audiences, but it's a YA book. And so I'm like, oh, how bad can it be? So I started reading it and I'm just like, pfft. So do I finish it? Because I want a sweet romance and it's not sweet. But do I finish it because I could do it really fast and count it as my numbers? Or do I just bag it? That is my dilemma. So I thought I would mention that one because the struggle.
What's it called?
17 Wishes. So maybe I'll read that one and tell you if it redeems itself, if it's good in the end, and I don't know. That's what I plan to read for April, because if I get through these things, it will kind of be a miracle. Hopefully you guys have a great reading month ahead of you. I look forward to seeing what everybody else is reading. Let's do it. Happy reading. Bye.